My name is Naomi, and if I ever had doubts about where I truly stood in my family, those doubts vanished the day I discovered the will. There was no dramatic announcement, no emotional sit-down, no warning at all. I didn't even hear it from my parents. I found out by accident, through nothing more than bad timing and blind luck. A few months ago, I was at my parents' house, the same house I had been helping them hold on to for the last 5 years. I helped cover the mortgage whenever it fell behind. I paid for groceries more times than I could count. I fixed things when they broke. I was the one quietly keeping everything from falling apart. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It really helps our channel grow and allows us to release new stories every single day. I did all of that while my younger sister, Imani, did absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing at all. No job, no bills, no responsibilities. She slept late, drifted through her days, and waited for life to reward her for simply existing. And somehow, my parents were more than happy to support that. That afternoon, my dad asked me to help him with paperwork. As usual, neither he nor my mom wanted to deal with anything involving documents or technology. He asked me to scan a stack of papers for him. Legal papers, financial forms, routine things. I didn't think twice about it until I noticed a folder in the pile. It was labeled Estate Plan. I hesitated. I'm not the kind of person who snoops, but curiosity crept in quietly. I had been financially supporting this household for years. Wondering how things were arranged for the future didn't feel unreasonable. So I opened it, and my stomach dropped. Everything was going to Imani, the house, the savings, every asset. My name appeared only once, buried in a generic sentence about loving both daughters equally. Equally. I stared at the page, feeling foolish. Years of helping, years of sacrifice, years of being dependable. And I wasn't even an afterthought. I was a technicality. I sat there holding the papers, my hands trembling, not from shock alone, but from betrayal. How long had they planned this? Had I always been nothing more than their safety net? Their solution when things got hard? My dad noticed I wasn't scanning anything. Naomi, what's taking so long? He asked as he walked back into the room. I didn't hide the document. I held it up and looked him straight in the eye. So this is how it is, I said, my voice steady. Everything goes to Imani. For a moment, his face went pale. Then he sighed, the way someone sighs when they're annoyed, not remorseful. It's not what you think, he muttered. Really? I said. Because it looks very clear. He shifted in place. It's complicated. That was all. No explanation, no apology. Just the quiet expectation that I would drop it and continue doing what I'd always done. I called for my mom. When she walked in and saw the will in my hands, guilt flickered across her face, but it didn't last. Naomi, she said gently, you don't need the inheritance. You're independent. You're doing well. Imani struggles. We just want to make sure she's taken care of. That was the moment something inside me went still. They knew exactly what they were doing. I placed the papers back on the table, took a slow breath, and nodded. Okay, I said quietly. Now I understand. Then I walked out of the house, and that was the last time I helped them hold it together. I didn't go back to my parents' house after that day. I didn't call. I didn't check in. For the first time in years, I stopped fixing their problems. I let them sit with the consequences of their own decisions. No more grocery runs. No more emergency payments. No more late-night calls asking me to just handle it. If something broke, they would have to figure it out. If bills piled up, they would have to deal with them. and if the mortgage notice showed up in the mail, it would no longer be my responsibility. At first, there was silence. It lasted about 2 weeks. I imagine they thought I was just upset, that I'd cool off and come back like I always did, that I'd apologize for being emotional and resume my role as their reliable backup plan. But then, the silence broke. One afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from my dad. The property taxes are due. That was it. No greeting. No acknowledgement of what had happened. No apology, just a cold, transactional reminder, as if nothing had changed. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to. Part of me was almost impressed by the audacity. They truly believed I would keep paying, no matter what they decided about my place in the family. I typed back slowly. I'm sure Imani will handle it, since the house is hers. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom. I let it ring. Then another text appeared. Naomi, please don't be like this. We need to talk. Now they wanted to talk, now that money was involved. I waited before replying. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. That should have ended it, but it didn't. That evening, my sister finally decided to involve herself. Why are you being so dramatic? Imani texted. It's not that serious. Just help them out like you always do. I almost laughed. I typed back. I think you've got it covered. She responded immediately. Are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up. It's just money. Just money. It was easy to say when it wasn't coming out of her pocket. Then you won't mind paying the mortgage, I replied. Silence. A few minutes later, my mom texted again, this time laying on the guilt. We're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up. That message hit harder than I expected. I had to take a breath before responding. You made it clear I wasn't family when you left me out of the will. Imani can take care of you now. Not long after, my dad chimed in. We're not asking for much, just enough to cover things for a few months. Don't be selfish. Selfish. I felt something snap. I had spent years sacrificing my time, money, and energy for them. And now, because I finally said no, I was selfish? I typed back one sentence. I'm done. Then I turned my phone off. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning, I woke up to a notification, a bank transfer request from my mom. No explanation. No message. Just a request for $3,500, the exact amount they needed to cover the overdue mortgage. I stared at it in disbelief, then declined it. Less than 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. Mom. I ignored it. Another text followed. I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it? Because it's not my responsibility, I replied. Try Imani. Another call. Another message. We're going to lose the house if you don't help us. That was when I knew they hadn't learned anything at all. Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter, I wrote back. Then my dad sent one final message. You're really going to let your parents become homeless? That message didn't hurt. It confirmed everything. They weren't scared. They weren't desperate. They were angry that their safety net had finally disappeared. I didn't respond. And that's when they decided to escalate. I was at work the next afternoon when my phone rang from an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, assuming it was another call I didn't want to deal with. But something told me to answer. Hi, this is the front desk at your apartment building, the woman said carefully. Naomi, your parents are here. I froze. They're asking to see you, she added. They're saying it's an emergency and that you won't answer their calls. My stomach tightened. They had actually come to my apartment. Please don't let them up. I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm not expecting them. There was a brief pause. They're being persistent. I don't care, I replied. They need to leave. I hung up, my hands shaking, not from fear, but from anger. The sheer audacity of it all made my chest feel tight. Showing up uninvited, trying to corner me in my own home, all because I stopped paying their bills. A text from my mom appeared almost immediately. We're downstairs. Open the door. No greeting, no apology, just another command. I didn't reply. Another message followed. We're not leaving until you talk to us. I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. They weren't going to stop. Fine. If they wanted to confront me, I wasn't going to hide. I grabbed my keys and headed downstairs. The moment I stepped into the lobby, I saw them. My mom, my dad, and of course Imani. They stood together like a united front, as if they were staging some kind of intervention. My mom's arms were crossed, her face already twisted into that familiar look of disappointment. My dad stood rigidly beside her, jaw clenched, eyes hard. And Imani leaned against the wall, scrolling on her phone, looking bored, as if this entire situation were nothing more than a mild inconvenience. When my mom spotted me, she stepped forward immediately. Naomi, finally, she said. We need to talk. I stopped a few feet away, not bothering to soften my tone. No, I said calmly. You need to leave. She blinked, genuinely stunned. Excuse me? You heard me, I replied. You don't get to show up at my apartment and demand money. My dad scoffed. So you're really going to let us lose the house over this? Over a grudge? I let out a short, humorless laugh. A grudge? I said. You mean the part where I paid your bills for years and you decided I wasn't worth including in your future? That's not fair, my mom snapped. We did what was best for the family. I tilted my head. You mean what was best for Imani? The silence that followed was heavy. Imani finally looked up from her phone. I don't even want to be involved in this, she said. I didn't ask for any of this. I turned to her slowly. No, I said. You just accepted it. Her expression hardened. What do you want me to do? I took a step closer. You're an adult. You want the house? Start acting like a homeowner. Get a job. Pay the bills. Stop expecting everyone else to carry you. She looked away. My mom inhaled sharply. She's your sister. And I've supported her longer than anyone else, I replied. My dad's voice grew sharper. You're being selfish. I laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. You decided she deserved everything? I said. You decided I deserved nothing, and now you're angry because I won't clean up the mess that choice created. My mom tried one last time. We thought you'd be mature about this. Mature? I repeated. You mean quietly accept being used? My dad stepped forward, trying to intimidate me the way he used to when I was younger. We raised you, he said. The least you can do is help us. I already did, I replied evenly. For years. No one spoke. I looked at all three of them and felt something unexpected. Clarity. We're done, I said. I turned, walked back inside, and let the door close behind me. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I had barely made it back to my couch when my phone buzzed. A message from my dad. After everything we've done for you, you're really going to abandon us. I stared at the screen, then typed back calmly. You abandoned me? I'm just finally accepting it. I sent the message, then blocked his number. I blocked my mom. I blocked Imani. I sat there for a long moment, phone in my hand, half expecting to feel panic or regret. Instead, I felt quiet. I thought blocking them would be the end of it. I was wrong. Less than a day later, I opened Facebook and immediately regretted it. My parents had never been especially tech-savvy, but when it came to public guilt trips, they were suddenly experts. My mom had posted a long, emotional message about how she didn't raise her daughter to be so selfish, and how true family shows up when it matters. The comments were already piling up. Friends of hers, distant relatives, people who knew nothing about what had actually happened. So sad to see children forget their parents. You only get one family. This breaks my heart. Then my dad posted his own message. Some people turn their backs when you need them most. We gave everything to our children, and this is how we're repaid. He tagged me. That's when my chest tightened. But the final straw came when I saw Imani's post. She shared something about real love and sacrifice, talking about how she would do anything for our parents and how some people only care about money. She didn't use my name, but she didn't have to. Everyone knew who she meant. I stared at my screen, stunned by how quickly the story had been rewritten. Somehow, I was now the villain. The cold, heartless daughter who had abandoned her struggling parents. The selfish one who refused to help. I closed the app and sat in silence. For a while, I told myself to ignore it, to be the bigger person, but the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. If I stayed silent, their version would become the truth. So I opened Facebook again. I didn't insult anyone. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't lash out. I told the truth. I wrote about the years I had paid bills, the groceries, the repairs, the support. I explained that I discovered I had been left out of the will entirely, and that my parents expected me to continue financing their lives anyway. I wrote that family should be built on mutual respect, not obligation. I didn't attack. I didn't beg for sympathy. I just explained why I stepped back. Then I hit post. Almost immediately, messages started coming in. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Old family friends, even a few of my parents' acquaintances. I had no idea. I'm sorry you went through that. You did more than enough. But the backlash came just as fast. Imani messaged me, furious, accusing me of betrayal. My dad left a voicemail yelling that I had humiliated them. My mom sent a long message about how I had destroyed the family. I didn't reply. I blocked them again. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet of my apartment. For the first time in years, there was no one demanding anything from me. No one expecting me to fix their problems. It felt unfamiliar. And then, it felt like relief. But I had no idea yet how far they were willing to go, or what cutting them off would actually cost. The days after that were strangely calm. Too calm. I went to work. I came home. I cooked simple meals. I slept through the night without my phone lighting up every few hours with another crisis that wasn't really a crisis at all. For the first time in years, my life felt quiet. But I knew better than to trust that silence. It broke a few days later when I got a message from a number I hadn't blocked. It was an aunt I barely spoke to. "Your mother is devastated," she wrote. "She hasn't been eating. This is breaking her heart." I didn't respond. Then another message came in. A cousin. "You know how they are. They don't mean harm. Just help them until things settle down." Then another. "Family forgives." Each message followed the same pattern. No one asked what had happened. No one asked how I felt. They just wanted me to smooth things over, to restore the balance that made everyone else comfortable. I started realizing something important. My family didn't want peace. They wanted access. A few nights later, I got an email from my building management. There had been a complaint. Apparently, someone had called claiming they were worried about my mental health, that I had been acting erratically and cutting off family suddenly. They suggested a wellness check might be necessary. I stared at the screen, my hands going cold. I knew exactly who had done it. They couldn't get to me financially anymore. They couldn't reach me emotionally, so they were trying something else. Control. I immediately contacted management, explained the situation calmly, and made it clear that I was safe and did not consent to unannounced visits. Thankfully, they believed me. But the message was clear. They weren't done. The next escalation came through the mail. A letter from my parents' attorney. They weren't suing me. Not yet. But the letter was full of carefully worded pressure. It mentioned familial obligations, past financial arrangements, and vague suggestions that I had made verbal commitments to assist them long term. I read it twice, then laughed. They were trying to scare me into compliance. I took the letter to a lawyer the next day. I didn't even hesitate. He skimmed it, then looked up at me. "You're not legally obligated to do anything," he said. "They're fishing." That confirmation settled something deep in my chest. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was responding. I blocked the remaining relatives who kept messaging. I tightened my privacy settings. I stopped explaining myself. And slowly, the noise began to fade. One evening, as I sat alone on my couch, I realized something else. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was grieving, but not for the people themselves. I was grieving the idea of a family I had spent years trying to earn my way into, and once I let that idea go, something shifted. I stopped waiting for an apology that was never coming. I stopped hoping they would suddenly understand. I started asking myself a different question. If I wasn't living for them anymore, who was I living for now? That was the moment I began rebuilding my life. Not around obligation, but around choice. And that choice was going to change everything. Once the noise finally died down, the quiet felt different. It wasn't just the absence of chaos. It was space. Space I hadn't had in years. And in that space, I started noticing how much of my life had been shaped around keeping everyone else comfortable. I began setting small boundaries first. I stopped checking my phone the moment I woke up. I stopped feeling guilty for leaving messages unanswered. I stopped explaining my decisions to people who were determined not to understand them. And slowly, something else became clear. I had been preparing my entire life for emergencies that were never mine. Every spare dollar had gone toward fixing someone else's problem. Every free weekend had been swallowed by responsibilities I never agreed to, but somehow inherited. Even my emotional energy had been rationed around what my parents or Imani might need next. Without that constant drain, I started seeing my own life more clearly. I realized how tired I had been. Not physically, emotionally. There were nights I sat in my apartment, lights off, just listening to the city outside my window. Cars passing, distant voices. The hum of something alive beyond the walls I had built around myself, and for the first time, I felt present. Then something unexpected happened. About a week after everything went quiet, I received a message from an unfamiliar account. No name, no photo. "Hey, it's Imani." I stared at it longer than I should have. "I just wanted to say, things are bad here," the message continued. "Mom's stressed. Dad's angry. They keep saying this is your fault." I didn't respond. A few minutes later, another message appeared. "They're talking about selling the house." That one gave me pause. Not because I felt responsible, but because it confirmed what I had suspected all along. The house had never been stable. I had been. "They want me to talk to you," Imani added. "They think I can fix this." I finally typed back. "You wanted the responsibility. This is what it looks like." There was no immediate reply. An hour later, she sent one more message. "I didn't think it would be like this." I read that sentence over and over. She hadn't thought about it at all. I didn't answer. I blocked the account. Not out of anger, but clarity. I wasn't going to be pulled back into the same cycle wearing a different mask. A few days later, I took my first real vacation in years. Not a big trip. Just a quiet getaway. A small coastal town. Long walks, early mornings, no obligations. No emergencies waiting in my inbox. I let myself rest, and during one of those quiet mornings, watching the sun rise over the water, I made a decision. I wasn't going to rebuild my old life. I was going to build something new. Something that didn't require me to be exhausted to be loved. When I came back from that short trip, something in me had shifted. The city felt the same. My apartment looked the same. My routine hadn't changed much on the surface. But internally, I was no longer bracing myself for impact. I started making decisions without running them through an imaginary filter of how my parents might react. I rearranged my schedule. I picked up hobbies I had abandoned years ago because they were impractical. I said no without explaining myself, and the world didn't fall apart. A few weeks passed before I heard anything else about the house. Not directly, never